soil to plant strawberries, so now you know why you like the taste of strawberries. But nitro is it's a solvent. It's a very stable thing, and it wasn't until the 1920s it was a train accident, they found out it actually could explode. It takes a lot of pressure and a lot of heat. We can throw a puddle of it out here in the street and throw a flare into it and it won't light it. But the reason it creates so much horsepower is because it's a chemical compound. It has its own oxygen molecules. It can actually burn in a vacuum without requiring any air. So we put air in on top of it, with it already having its oxygen. We can basically burn 7 times the amount of fuel in each cylinder than you can over gasoline. So obviously more fuel in the cylinders, more horsepower, bigger bang for the buck. Now, normally back in the 60s, and if you guys love these front engine cars, next weekend at FAMOSA is the California Hot Rod Reunion. Hey, Art, look what Art found. Anyways, at the Hot Rod Reunion, there's been about 80 cars restored now, and probably about 60 of the front engine dragsters on Saturday night will be push started one right after another down the Fire Up Road, and all burning at once. So if you can imagine the sound of that, along with all the racing that's going on with the funny cars and the top fuel cars, all front engine stuff. The next weekend at FAMOSA, if you're only going to go for one day, go for Saturday.
There we go.
That's when most of them go, and then we do the Cackle Fest at night. Now, we push start them there, like we did back in the 60s. We just put a car up behind them. About 25 miles an hour, I drop the clutch. And the only gauge on a dragster is an oil pressure. When we see some oil pressure, hold down the throttle for about a 2 count. That primes the injectors. Come off the throttle and hit the magneto switch, and she comes to life. Obviously, we don't ever push start it in here, so we're going to use a blower starter, which was invented in the early 70s, or actually a little late 60s, to use on the funny cars because they couldn't figure out how to push start them. The starter motor's out of a helicopter, and it takes 48 volts to spin it. When he first did, if you see him, right now he's checking for oil pressure. Earlier you saw him with the wrench and the blower turning the motor over backwards. And if you watch the modern drag race and you see them doing that same thing, getting in a wrench, you see them doing this at the front of the motor. What they're doing is they're turning the motor backwards. By doing that, we create a vacuum inside the cylinders, and that way we make sure to evacuate all the fuel out of it, so there's not a chance of hydraulic in the motor when we go to fire it. We don't want anything in it. Then we check for oil pressure like he did now. Now what Bob and Mario do is they'll prime the injectors, like I said, with gas because it ignites very easily, and then you'll hear the pitch change as the fuel starts to burn. The only way to shut off a fuel motor is to starve it of fuel. So at the end of the run, we have a fuel shut-off valve. The driver just pulls it, and it just shuts up. You'll hear the RPM go up a little bit as it leans out, but that's the only way to shut them off. You try to shut off the magneto switch, we can send that blower about 50 feet in the air, so it doesn't work. At any rate, Okay, anybody with little kids, it does get a little noisy. Big kids, your wusses, if you plug yours.
Oh, hold up.
And if you're dying for some nitro dose, you're welcome to kind of mosey back under here if you really want to load.
Yeah.
And we're running 85% in the car right now, so that'll have some pop. So go ahead, Bob.
One day.